thing. Hello everyone. So I'm going to play this little clip here of some lightning. So this lightning was recorded at in a field. No, I'm just joking. I created the lightning. The time lapse is real, but you thought the lightning was real, didn't you? It's fake. I'll show you how I did it. Okay, so first of all, this time lapse footage I should highlight is an image sequence. So it's best to use, if you ever receive a file like this and it just says PNG on it as if it is a single image, but actually it's moving footage, you need to access an image sequence, a sequence of images. Here it says sequences. That means if there are individual images, they will be combined together into a sequence that is represented as one file, but actually it's a whole bunch of individual frames just put together so that you can play them back. Just highlighting that. So the way I did this was I found some time-lapse footage out there. There it is. And then I looked at reference. It's really hard to create stuff like this from your imagination. Eventually your composite will just break down. You won't be sure if it looks right or if it looks good. The best way to do that, to figure that out, is looking at reference. So I did find footage of lightning actually happening. It depends what time of day it is as to the way it's going to look. But I'll just show you a little bit of before, after. There's the color correction, and here you can see that it's labeled BG grade. It's just a nuke node, no operation, labeled BG grade. This is so that when I go back into a comp like this, I can very easily figure out what I had done. And I'll continue to do that as we go through this. This should not be a composite of this size. It should not be intimidating. This is just getting started. But I created this probably a few years ago. I purposely did not review it before doing this demo, just so I can demonstrate the importance of being organized and being able to sort back through things and having a really clean workflow and decision-making process. So that anyone that you're working with can also access your composite. So here we go. BG grade. And from there, if I think about this, let's see, what happens with lightning? What happens is that there's sort of light happening in the cracks of the details of the clouds. But the question is, how do we know how to make a glow. We know that that lightning sort of glows, but how do we access those different areas of the cloud and control them? So if you think about it and you stare at these pixels, how can I separate different kinds of information here and create a mask or a matte for my effect, for the effect that I want to have here? So the way I did that was Lumie, which once again creates a mask based on luminance for the image that you're working with. So if I view what happens in the Lumie, remember that in a Lumie you have to be viewing the alpha channel in order to see what the Lumie is actually doing. Otherwise it will look like just your original image. So here I've grabbed the Lumie, I am viewing it, and what I've done was crunch this to get that. And what I had done here is ended up building up layers. So hold on. So here we go. So I blurred that just to smooth it out a little bit, because if I create a lightning effect with the edge, that rough might not look right in a cloud specifically. So there I have this rendition, and here I have a bloom, just following the convention of creating a custom blur. And here I have more of a fall off, I just said bloom 2. But I have used these, and here I isolate, here as a convention, I would select alpha here, isolate the alpha channel to make sure that I'm extracting the alpha channel from the actual Lumie, but it should be already done within a Lumie. It's just to remind myself. And I have gone and screened them together. As you know, when you screen something together, it gets brighter, but with protecting it from going to super white. At times, you might use an add layering mode here in order to make the core a little bit brighter, which might be more appropriate if you're I mean, I said add, but in Nuke I say plus. Sometimes it's cool to use plus to make it a little bit brighter, and maybe even go to pure white if it's a flame uh, or a torch or something like that. Depends on the dramatic effect you want to have too. If there's a small highlight at pure white, that's fine. But anyway, here go the first two layers together. Here go here's the all three together. Okay, and what I've done is eventually use basically this as a mask or a matte to control a grade, a color correction on the light on the footage. So I'm gonna go back to my color channel. So here you can see that. Let's see. Gain. Here we go. So turn this back on. I've turned the brightness up by using the gain, and I did a little bit of color correction by looking at reference. Sometimes lightning looks a little bit pink. It just depends. So yeah, but as you can see, there's something else going on here. So if I do just this, it might be a bit too uniform. And there's a little bit of randomness to the way that lightning shows up, like within any given cloud. So over here, I've created some rotoshapes. Whoops, I'll just go back to viewing this. Double click this so I can see. I have rotoshapes that control each area, and let's see. And what I've done here is told that lightning to appear outside of these rotoshapes. So if I go to the final view of the mask, I can see that, okay, first I had all this here, and then but down here I decided to get rid of some of it. And these rotoshapes, of course, could be blurred to smooth that out. And let's see, here it says mult on and off, so that means here I put multiply nodes used to turn these rotoshapes on and off. So that means that sometimes these will be visible and sometimes not. If I go here, I see there's a value of 1, that means that it's visible. And if I go over here, the value of 0, which means that this rotoshape is going to disappear, and the original will be revealed again. So let's see. And what this does, well, let's see what happens when I scroll through this. Okay. So that'll help it. That helps it to be a little bit more natural and add randomness to it. And speaking of randomness, if you use the exact same mask every time for the grade, it's still going to look too uniform. So it's like, and if you use the same brightness every time, it will still look too uniform. That never happens. If you look at the reference, lightning blinks at all sorts of different brightness levels, and it flickers like that. So let me just play this back as a reminder. Oh, whoops. Just gonna go down here. It might look like, when you first look at it, it might look like just blinking, like when you look at a real reference, but actually the blinking is at slightly different levels. What you could do is keyframe the brightness here, but that would be a lot of trouble, and you lose control over this setting. Like, what if you wanted to go back and change those different brightness levels? It would be really hard if you had already keyframed them. So what I've done here was, instead of doing it within this node, keyframing within this node, the brightness level, created another one. So obviously this one, let's see, lightning 2, I didn't say if it's brighter or not, but this one has a gain of 10. So basically what I did here was create one with a lower brightness and the other with a higher brightness. And you can tell just by looking at it, this one is almost blowing out. And again, this would be a decision made by looking at reference, whether or not you want to blow something out or go to pure white. Okay. And so after creating the two separate ones, and instead of keyframing this one as well, which would be a mess to have overlapping keyframed nodes like this, I used the switch node, which is what it sounds like. It switches between two or more inputs as many as you want. So sometimes it's the brighter one, sometimes it's the and sometimes it's the original, and sometimes it's the less bright one. And if I were to complete this comp, I might have 5 or 6 of those. But this shot is only a few seconds long, and it's just a demo. But this would be in a realistic situation to really make this look the way that it should. This composite would be probably 3 times bigger than this. Alright. Let's see. And then along the way, of course, you never get it just right the first time. It could be that like you might go in here and based on what you see afterwards, then go back and tweak one of these roto shapes. Oh, this needs to be in more, or it might have to keyframe its location because the clouds are actually moving across the sky. Let's see. You might go back in and like decide that this needs to be blurred more. You might add more filters to this. You might go back in and keyframe this a few more times. It's there's not one way to do anything. This is just the starting point. So yeah, lightning, all based on just the basic fundamentals of building up a glow, custom glow. Alrighty then, and again, you know, there's not one way to do things. I actually just came up with this from scratch. This was not taught, so dream away. See you next time.